Hello and welcome all of you. My name is Abhay. In this video, we will know about the risks. What is the risk assessment? What is the risk profile? What is the hazard? What is the risk? We will know everything in this element 3.4. So let's get started. First of all, we have to know about the hazard. Hazard means something with the potential to cause harm. So it may be physical, chemical, biological, ergonomic, psychological. So it may be anything. What is risk? Risk has two terms. It has likelihood and severity. So we can define it as the likelihood of harm occurring in the combination with the severity of the foreseeable harm. So this is the definition of the risk. And next one is, what is risk profiling? Risk profiling is the process of identifying and assessing the range of risks that threaten an organization. Actually, this is talking about the organization, not the people. So along with the recognition of the likelihood and probable impact, the current risk management control in place, and the identification and prioritizing of further control measures. So this is the called risk profile. What is risk assessment? Risk assessment is the formal process of identifying, preventing, and protective measures by evaluating the risk arising from the hazard and taking into account the adequacy of any existing control and decide whether or not the risk is in acceptable level. So this is the definition of the risk assessment. So every organization have some risk profile. So each organization will have on risk profile. It vary from organization to organization. Risk profile examines the nature and level of threats faced by the organization, the likelihood of those adverse effects occurring, the level of disruption and cost associated with the each types of risk, the effectiveness of the control in place to manage those risks. So this is the risk profile examined. So the outcome of risk profile will be that the right risk have been identified and prioritized for action. The right control measures have been identified and implemented, and the minor risk have not been given a disproportionate priority. Risk profile process. These are the five steps of risk profiling. First one, we have to identify the risks that threaten the organization. Second one is identify the health and safety impact and the business impact associated with the each threat. Third one is identify how well each threat is controlled. Fourth one is identify the likelihood of each threats happening. And last one is prioritize the threats. So these are the five steps of risk profiling. What is the purpose of risk assessment? The purpose of risk assessment is to prevent death and personal injury, other types of loss incident happen in the organization, breaches of statute law, the cost of loss. Risk assessment must be suitable and sufficient, and for suitable and sufficient, they fulfill the following point. First of all, identify significant risk. It must identify significant risk, enable employer to identify and prioritize control measures appropriate to the nature of the work, and it must be proportionate to the risk, valid for the reasonable time. So, what are the steps of risk assessment? Just like risk profile, there are five steps of risk assessment. First one is identify the hazard. Second one is identify the people who might be harmed and how. Step 3 is evaluate the risk and decide on precaution. Step 4 is record the significant finding and implement. Step 5 is review and update as necessary. So step 1, identify the hazard. Hazard will be of two types: safety hazard and health hazard. Safety means capable of causing physical injury. Health means capable of causing occupational disease or ill health. Safety hazard will work at height, falling object, moving vehicle, machinery, electricity, chemical, low oxygen concentration, deep water, fire explosion, animals violation. It will cause physical injury. But health hazard is, it may be physical, chemical, biological, ergonomic, psychological. The source of information which can be used to find out the hazard will be internal and external. Internal will be accident record, ill health data absence report, medical record, risk assessment, maintenance report, safety inspection, audit and investigation report, safety committee minute, and national external source of information will be national legislation, approved code of practices, standard like BSI and ISO, manufacturers information, trade association, safety publication, international bodies, trade union, and charities. So hazard identification method is are as follows: task analysis, legislation, manufacturer information, incident data. So task analysis can be done by using these acronyms like SLEDIM. Select the task, record the stage of the task. E means evaluate the risk associated with the each stage, develop the safe working method, implement the safe working method, and M means monitor to ensure the effectiveness. Step 2 of risk assessment is identify the people at risk. Worker, operator, maintenance staff, cleaner are the people who might be always at risk. Contractor workers, contractor, visitors at the site, and member of the public who visit the site, and along with if the trespasser is coming on the site. Next one is vulnerable group or individual. These are the people who is very weak, like young people, new or expectant mother, disabled workers, lone worker. So step third is evaluate the risk and decide on precaution. How we will decide on precaution? How we will evaluate the risk? So first of all, we have to check is the level of risk in acceptable level or does it need to be reduced? So we will calculate by using this formula likelihood into severity, and likelihood can be categorized in 5 point: extremely unlikely, unlikely, possible, likely, or very probably. Severity can be categorized in 5 point, like very minor injury, first aid injury, it will be 2, lost time injury, it will be 3, hospital treatment, disable injury. So this is categorized on 5 scale. This is the risk matrix. Risk matrix likelihood into severity. So green means it is at acceptable level, red means further work is not allowed. If it come under the yellow, that means we have to take further control measure to reduce the risk. These are the general hierarchy of control: elimination, substitution, engineering control, administrative control, PPE. So elimination means we have to eliminate the hazard. Like suppose petrol is there and it has chance to fire, so we will remove the petrol. Substitution, we will substitute hazardous material with less hazardous material. In engineering control, isolation, total enclosure, separation, segregation, partial enclosure, and safety devices of machine or hazard is done. So it is called engineering control. In administrative control, safe system work come, reduce exposure come, reduce time of exposure dose, information, instruction and training and supervision comes under the administrative control. Or at last, PPE. PPE is the last line of defense. So first very effective is elimination and least effective is PPE. These safety signs are used at the site as an administrative control. So this site can be categorized in 5 parts, like prohibition, warning, mandatory, safe condition, and fire equipment. Personal protective equipment. As per the regulation 1992 of UK, PPE, employer should supply suitable PPE which is appropriate for the risk and ergonomically designed. It will fit to the worker, does not increase overall risk of worker, and it must comply with the standards. That means PPE manufactured based on the standards, and it must be compatible with items, and suitable storage facility must be provided, and how to use information, instruction and training to given to the worker, and employers should enforce the use of PPE where required and replace or repair damaged or lost item when it got damaged. What are the benefit, that means merit and limitation of PPE? PPE can be used as interim control whilst more expensive or difficult control are put in place. PPE can be used in some situation. It may be only control option available and it may be needed as a backup for emergency when other control measures have failed. PPE have some merit that it is usually cheap compared to others and it gives immediate protection. But what is limitation? It only protect one person, the wearer. It may be protect adequately if it is not fitted correctly. And next one is it may not be comfortable and may interfere with other wearer ability to do the job. It may increase the overall risk by impairing the senses. For example, goggles that messed up. That means vapor will come on the screen. It may not be compatible with other items that have to be worn or used. People do not like wearing PPE. So if it fails to danger. The worker is exposed to risk. So these are the merit and limitation of using PPE at the site. So use of guidance and legal standards. Use of risk matrix can help provide a clarity and can set risk level that require action without set time scale. Legal requirements override the finding of risk assessment even if the risk is low and requires it, then it must be done. Applies also semi-legal codes of practice. Guidance can also assist. So risk can be categorized in the following point, like residual risk. What is residual risk? The risk level we are left with after control have been implemented. That is called residual risk. After implementation of control measure, what risk has left? That is called residual risk. Acceptable risk. Risk has been reduced to an adequate level and further we can't do that, so that is called acceptable risk. And tolerable risk means not acceptable but can live with it for the short period of time with interim controls, so that is called tolerable. And unacceptable risk means risk is too high we can't work there. If we do the work, then it will endanger our life. So this is the risk type. Step 4 is the record significant finding and implement them. Like typical content like activities area assessed and hazard, group at risk and adequacy of existing control measures, further precaution needed, date and name of the competent person, review date. It must be recorded, and this point must be included in the risk assessment. Step 5 is review. Significant change in process, workplace, substance, environment, equipment, personnel. So if this happen, a significant changes happen, then review of the risk assessment is required. Risk assessment will be no longer valid if any accident happen, if the change in legal requirement, if near miss happen, if standards change, if ill health happen, and otherwise risk assessment periodically reviewed. Special cases and vulnerable worker. Young person under 18 are vulnerable group of people. Vulnerable means very weak. They can easily injured. Lack of experience. Physical and mental maturity is less, and poor risk perception, influenced by the peer group and eager to do the job. Control measures are we have to prohibit certain risk activity, that is high risk machinery, restrict work pattern and hours. No overtime will be allowed for the young people. Training and supervision is required for the young person. New and expectant mother, that means pregnant woman. Certain chemicals like lead is very dangerous for the expectant mother. Certain biological agent like rubella virus. Manual handling is not allowed for the expectant mother, otherwise miscarriage will happen. Temperature extreme, whole body vibration, ionizing radiation, night shift, stress, and violence are the risks for the new and expectant mother. Disabled worker, like identify health and fitness criteria for some job and who is not fulfilling, that is disabled. So eyesight requirement to drive forklift truck, it can be done by disabled worker with known disabilities. What are the implication of their disability? You know lone worker means people worker who work alone. So workers especially vulnerable and more at risk of violence, like prison officer, mental health nurse, if they are injured or ill, like confined space entry. These are the person who are the vulnerable, so we have to take precaution while doing the risk assessment. So we have completed risk assessment and the risk profile. Next, element 3.6, this is the part of the element 3, management of change, MOC. So I hope you will like this video. If you are new to my channel, subscribe, share with your friend, and don't forget to hit bell icon. So I will meet you in the next video. Stay safe, stay informed. I am Abhay Singh signing off.